So, how do we start this? First of all, before we go into anything, super excited. Happy New Year 2025. Yes, then we come back to, yes, I have to begin the show with this. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything. How are you all doing? Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, I'm doing fine. Super excited. Why? Because I'm here and you're there. Super excited. Before I came on set, I was, going through brooding over 2024 and all that happened and all of that. Fruitful year, I must say. We had this amazing time, amazing guest on the show, and quality production. And I'm grateful. Your feedback, your responses. It's been beautiful, and I'm grateful. So, 2025, we begin yet again. And what are we going to be doing today? I'll let you in, but I want to read something. Yes, I wrote something, I think that was last night, as in before coming. I wrote something down, and I looked at it before coming on set, and I said, I think I should share it with us before we go into what we have for today. A lot of moving parts today. Yes, we're going to have a lot of moving parts, piecing them together in creating that amazing collage, if you understand what I mean by that. Yep, I call this the God reading. We talk about algorithm in this generation so much that we are now subjecting ourselves to algorithms. But something came to my mind and I said, let me write it down. I call it the God reading. The God reading can be described as the divine pattern or algorithm that governs life, creation, and existence. It is a reading of God's wisdom and sovereignty, operating seamlessly through natural and supernatural processes to bring order, purpose, and harmony to the universe. It reflects the interplay between human actions and divine orchestration, where the infinite wisdom of God aligns circumstances, events, decisions to fulfill His ultimate plan. The concept embodies the idea that God's ways are precise, intentional, and deeply intertwined with the intricate systems of creation such as time, space, nature, and even the human relationships. Like an algorithm in the digital world, the God rhythm is dynamic yet consistent, adapting to the individual lives while remaining rooted in divine truth and eternal principles. Hope you like that. I know you do. So, what are we going to be doing today? I decided to read this because it will lay the foundation for what we want to do. Give me a minute, please. Give me a minute. It will lay the foundation. So 2024 at the, would I say, Christmas period, the holiday and all of that, this thought hit me. And for a moment, I was brooding. Yeah, brooding. I shared it with my wife. Usually I do that. And had a little discussions and all that. So every year ends, every year begins. I have come to notice or realize something that we all race against. We all race against it. I call it two sides of a coin. I'm going to go into it, relax. Two sides of a coin. And this is how I describe it. Prophecy and history. And you'll be wondering, I know. So I asked this question: is prophecy history foretold, or is history prophecy fulfilled? So I take it again. Is prophecy history foretold, or is history prophecy fulfilled? So the question now is, what is prophecy and what is history? Now, whenever we speak of these two things, they ride on one singular factor: time. When you talk about history, what comes to people's mind? I remember on the show once I talked about history, someone defining history as not what had happened or what had happened to you. Rather, it is what is happening. But this is very clear. We're talking about time. Yep. Each time we talk about history, what comes to our mind is the past, somehow the present. We don't really talk about the future. But when we talk about prophecy, it is the future. It will come. Surely it will happen. So how do we balance this? Because if you calm yourself down, take stock of, say, 10 years backwards, count from 2024 backwards to maybe 2014, keep going. If you try and put together things you heard in form of prophecy, then fast forward, you come to see that history somehow has been made. And again, those who come to understand the dynamics of prophecy don't fall prey of repeating history's mistakes, because somehow we come to know that history repeats itself or herself, as the case may be. So you ask, why do we make that same or those same mistakes? And some are wondering, why are we talking about this on the show? Because somehow when it comes to your mind, when you hear the word prophecy, we think prophecy is just tied to something exoteric, the church, spiritual. But if you look at it clearly, our lives are governed by the protocol of prophecy. Our lives are expressed on the scale of history, because they are all functions of time. Like I said, we have a lot of moving parts today. So I want to begin by sharing a story. We're going to begin with that. We'll tell a story. When you look at the concept of time, let me lay a little foundation before we go into the story. If you go into scriptures, you see when God was creating in the beginning, when he created creation, and something so unique. He created some entities and he gave them authority to govern. He created the moon and he said, you will govern the night. He created the sun and he said, you will govern the day. He created the stars and he said, you will govern, or they will govern the seasons. All of these are functions of or expressions of time. Am I confusing you now? I don't think so. So, I want us to lay that foundation. So, the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, the going down, the moon, the movement of the stars, there is a cosmic reality that this reality, our reality, is subject to. So between that distance, they influence so much. Am I speaking too much grammar? I'm not confusing. I know I'm not confusing you. But I want us to begin the year by looking at this. So what's our story? The story we're going to begin with is one factor has defined the 20th or 21st century, as the case may be, and that factor is energy. You understand? Energy. Yes, energy. Energy is revealed in so many forms, but one particular one that has defined the 21st century, or the 20th and the 21st century, is fossil fuel. Yeah, that energy that comes from fossil fuel, what you know as oil and gas. And I'll read this now, and we will see where we're going with all of this. The 1928 Red Line Agreement. So I read, the 1928 Group Agreement, better known as the Red Line Agreement, was a deal struck between several American, British, and French oil companies concerning the oil resources within territories that formerly comprised the Ottoman Empire within the Middle East. The origins of the Red Line Agreement can be traced back to the initial formation of the Turkish Petroleum Company, TPC, in 1912. The TPC was formed as a joint venture between the Royal Dutch Shell, the Dutch Bank, and the Turkish National Bank in order to promote oil exploration and production within the Ottoman Empire. In March 1912, however, the British government, which controlled the Turkish National Bank, managed to have its shares within the TPC transferred to the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. The following June, the Ottoman Grand Vizier, that's the leader, promised an oil concession to the constituted or reconstituted TPC to develop oil fields within the Ottoman province of Baghdad and Mosul. 7 sisters. Follow my thought. You would see where we're going. During World War I, the Allies expropriated Dutch Bank's share in the TPC and transferred them to the French government during the San Remo Conference of 1920. At the time, Royal Dutch Shell hoped that it could purchase the French government's shares so as to balance out Anglo-Persian's 50% stake within the TPC. So the Prime Minister, Raymond Poincaré, I hope I pronounced that very well, of France, however, brushed aside any such suggestions, since he was determined to create an independent French oil company that could compete with major British and American oil companies, which became known collectively as the 7 Sisters. Follow my thoughts. The 7 Sisters were the Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, later known as Exxon, the Standard Oil Company of New York, Socony, later Mobil, which eventually merged with Exxon, the Standard Oil Company of California, SoCal, later renamed Chevron, the Texas Oil Company, later renamed Texaco, Gulf Oil, which later merged with Chevron, Anglo-Persian, later British Petroleum, and Royal Dutch Shell. The San Remo Oil Agreement excluded American oil companies from participation in the TPC. This fact provoked strong protests from both American oil companies, who feared that the Europeans would deny them access to foreign oil sources, and dump cheap Middle Eastern oil on the world market, and the U.S. Department of State, which opposed any attempts by foreign governments and businesses to discriminate against American firms in their search for new market and business opportunities. In order to discourage the Europeans from treating American oil companies unfairly. The U.S. Congress passed the Mineral Leasing Act in February of 1920, which denied drilling rights on publicly owned land in the United States to any foreign company whose parent government discriminated against American businesses. Neither the British nor the U.S. government, however, wished to jeopardize relations over the issue. In 1928, the TPC was reorganized to include the Near East Development Corporation, an American oil syndicate that included Jersey Standard, Socony, Gulf Oil, the Pan American Petroleum and Transport Company, and Atlantic Refining, later ARCO. Jersey Standard and Socony later assumed total control over the NEDC after they bought out their partners during the 1930s. Now, signing of the Red Line Agreement. On June 31st, 1928, following the discovery of an immense oil field in Iraq and TPC negotiating regarding the division of crude oil output between the partners, representatives from the Anglo-Persian, Royal Dutch Shell, the company, there's a very long word, it's a French word, CFP, I'll just abbreviate it later, Total. Yes, that's how Total came about. And the Near East Development Corporation signed. Now, when you go through this, the history, you heard me use the word the Seven Sisters. You heard me talk about or mention the names of the Seven Sisters. So, looking back in history, time past, how the search for energy resources, oil and gas and all of that shaped the 20th and the 21st century. But this is how it came about. Now, when the Americans, from what I read, and the British, were jostling for this, they did not allow other entities come into it. One name, an Italian name came into the mix. I'm trying to look for it so that we're going to see it. His name was Enrico Mattei. Mattei requested for an opportunity to be part of, I want a piece of the table. But he wasn't, they didn't respond to him. He actually went to meet them, as in the powers that be, then to ask for a piece of the pie. And they refused him. So Mattei was the one who coined the name the Seven Sisters. Why the Seven Sisters? When he used that word, the Seven Sisters, why? Mattei was frustrated by the dominance of the major Western oil companies, mostly American and British, which controlled oil exploration, production, and pricing globally. These companies operated like a cartel, often referred to as the oil majors, and worked together to maintain their grip on the resources in oil producing countries. Mattei saw their coordinated efforts to exclude smaller players like ENI, yes, he was the founder of ENI, as a significant barrier to Italy's energy independence and economic growth. He now coined them. He coined the name the Seven Sisters. Who is Mattei? Like I told you today, we have a lot of moving parts. We are going to bring them together. Who was Mattei? Enrico Mattei was born 29th April 1906. He died 27th October 1962. He was an Italian public administrator. After World War II, he was given the task of dismantling the Italian Petroleum Agency, AGIP, a state enterprise established by the fascist Italy. Instead, Mattei enlarged and reorganized it into a national fuel trust, which is called ENTA, National Idokaburi, ENI. Under his direction, ENI negotiated important oil concessions in the Middle East, as well as significant trade agreement with the Soviet Union, which helped break the oligopoly of the Seven Sisters, you see, that dominated the mid-20th century oil industry. He will also introduce the principle whereby the country that owned exploited oil reserves received 75% of the profits. Mattei, who became a powerful figure in Italy, was a member of Christian democracy and the Italian parliament from 1948 to 1953. The story goes and all of that. He coined the word, the Seven Sisters. So when I was preparing for this, I was asking myself, why the Seven Sisters? Now, yes, don't forget, we said something about the stars, the sun, the moon, governing the cosmic reality. The Seven Sisters is known as the Pleiades. Mattei, from my, observation and opinion, was a huge scholar who took his time to study the stars, the cosmos, how they influence our day-to-day life. And there's this particular group of stars that are called the Seven Sisters. Are you with me? Am I scaring you? The Seven Sisters. You remember in the book of Job, when God called Job to question him. He said, that's Job chapter 38 verse 31. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? 32. Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with his cubs? Now, this was God speaking to Job and asking him questions about the constellations. And I want to read something for you now. I want to read something for you to see. Now, I have a lot, like I said. With reference to their supposed effect on weather, that is talking about the constellations now, and the like, or perhaps the word means chain or bands with allusion, to their group. Glitter like a swarm of fireflies tangling in a silver thread. The context, however, blah, blah, blah. Let me jump to this now. Job 38, verse 31. I'm reading the commentary. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, generally understood of the seven stars, which rising from the time of the vernal equinox bring in the spring? Canst thou restrain or hinder the influences, or loosen bands of Orion, by which it binds up the air and earth, rising in November and bringing in the winter, attended with storms of rain and hail? So now, I believe strongly he studied these things, and he saw the way these companies operated like a cluster, not allowing others into the game, and he coined the name Seven Sisters. Now the question I ask is, were they conscious that they were operating like the constellations? Remember what we said earlier, the moon, the sun were given to govern, to influence the processes. Now I want to ask, what has that got to do with prophecy and history? Like I said, it all rides on the principle of time. Yes, time. the cosmos, the stars, and all of that rides on the principle of time. And time, as we know, or rather history and prophecy as we know, are functions of time. So, now, you remember the story of the Magi that came from the east? What did they say? We saw his star. We saw his star. We've been studying the stars. We've been looking at the cosmic reality, and there's something that's about to happen. And now we need to follow it. And when they followed it, it brought, the star led them to where? Bethlehem. And they saw the king who was born. Was he spoken of? Was there a prophecy about the king that was to be born? Yes. There was a prophecy spoken of about the king that was to be born. So that prophecy that went forth shaped the cosmos. And the cosmos, who has been given the command or the authority to govern time, this is me, had all of these codes hidden somewhere and waiting for that time to come. So why are we talking about that now? Can you see what is happening in the world today? If you observe what is happening in the world today, I use the oil and gas intentionally because the world is going through this, what I call it, phase, and there's this jostling for energy resources in form of oil and gas. And now the big majors who have come to Africa and dealing, they've been dealing with Africa for over 60, 70, close to 100 years now, a century. But you know what? There's a change. Time is changing. They are beginning to leave. They are divesting their portfolios and their interest and all of that. So now it is like creating another opportunity. So I ask myself, the stars are changing. They are realigning. Why are you saying that? They were given the command to govern. Yes, you will govern the day, you will govern the night. The stars will bring about the seasons. And you will agree with me, our lives are all about times and seasons. What I came to do today is to provoke this thought in you so that every moment of 2025 will not be taken for granted. Daniel chapter 2 verse 21, he changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. But this is my focus. Times and seasons. He changes them. And in course of the change, he brings down one king and he raises another king. Do you get it? He's given them the authority to govern the day, to govern the night, to bring about seasons. They play his, what I say, script. They play divinity's script. But in course of rising and falling, kings rise and also the others fall. So this is clear. There's a unique season coming for all of us. In Africa, particularly Nigeria, it is for us to see it, position ourselves. Somebody say, what are you driving at? Are you trying to say that the cosmos, the constellations, the stars and what have you influences our lives? Yes, that is what I'm saying. Because they were given. You remember that scripture that says, the sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The order of the sun is not to smite thee, the order of the moon either. But you know that certain people manipulate it. Yep, they manipulate it. But listen, that's why we're here. Their manipulations will not work this season because we know better now. Let me tell you something. I know that for sure. I know that certain organizations, certain people, certain families, certain groups are the end or the ending or the coming of to the end of a particular season. They go to seek mediums. The horoscoping and astrologing. What do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing? They go to seek medium. But scripture says that why do you seek the dead among the living? So if we know it and have that understanding, we will position ourselves. That is what I came to do today. I told you we have a lot of moving parts. So that is it. Don't just walk carelessly this 2025. Why? We are fulfilling prophecies. We are creating histories. If we are not careful, we will repeat the mistakes of the past. Yes. So for us not to repeat the mistakes of the past, we need to understand the direction of prophecy and position ourselves like Enrico Mattei did. Position ourselves and break those, what I call it, orchestration of evil. Is that what we came to do on the show today? Yes, beginning on that note. And it's always exciting when thoughts like this come through, as in come to my mind, and I sit down and I ponder over them and I churn over them and I trust God for the best way to bring them across. Is prophecy history fulfilled? Is prophecy history foretold? Or is history prophecy fulfilled? So every day of our lives, we are fulfilling prophecy. Yes. You being ignorant of it does not stop it from happening. But you being aware, conscious of it, plays to your advantage. You position yourself. All right, guys. The earth is for our own fruitfulness. The earth will work to our advantage. The earth will work for us. And somebody will ask, so what do we do as a people, as a nation, as group? I think what we should do is pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signals. Then build. Yep, build. It's a season of building. What are you building? Capacity. What are you building? Expansion. What are you building? Your character. What are you building? Your zest. What are you building? Your energy bank. You're filling them up because there is a change. All right, then I have to leave it here. But this is what we came to do on the show. It's going to be an exciting year. I mean, I tell you, more will come. We will talk more. We will share more. Yes, I have to say this before I leave you. Go ahead, go follow us. Recently, I've been trying to get myself into that mode of saying this over and over again. Go ahead, follow us on all social media platforms. Instagram, X, TikTok, LinkedIn. Go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have amazing content for you, beautiful content for you. This year, by His grace, we will churn out amazing content that will bless you on every level. I wish I can go on, but I have to go so I can get more and come back and share with you. You know how we say it on the show. My name is Amachree Isoboye. Till I come your way again. Bye for now.